Hi, everyone. I'm Conrad Kiechel, and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone here to our first Milken Institute Global Conference Author Talk. This is a new feature for this year's Global Conference, which we and I are very excited about. As you can tell, there's a lot of interest in especially this session. We've created an environment which is meant to be more intimate and more welcoming, really conversational. And we're kicking it off with what I can only imagine is the probably most in-demand author talk of the next 3 days with John Haidt and with our first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. I'm just going to say one thing to ask everyone, please. Folks who are here know what this book is about, know what John is unleashed and inspired across the country. Know that one of the central things that they will be talking about is how our digital devices have taken hold of our minds and the minds of our youth. And that's not just for our youth. That's for a few of us too, a little more age. So I don't know if it's subtle, but if people would try to please either turn off, silence, put away, put on the floor, it's a secure environment, your devices for the next hour. I know there's lots of stuff going on, but what's going to be in this room is going to be amazing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over and welcome John Haidt and Jennifer Siebel Newsom.
Sorry, I'm holding a lot here. I scored. I get to interview this incredible human who's so brave and honest and what we need more than ever. So thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for your commitment to not just America's children, but the world's children. So I'm Jennifer Siebel Newsom, first partner of California. And through our, I actually have my notebook. I was looking for a pen because I've started to want to write more. Oh, you're so kind. It's okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. But as a mom of four, and through my work thank you so much, through our California for All Kids initiative, which is about helping children thrive and develop the best habits in life so that they can have a lifetime of mental, physical, and emotional wellness. I'm deeply concerned, right? And that's why we're here today. We are in the midst of a youth mental health crisis. And while families are doing our best to navigate this increasingly digital world, tech companies also need to take responsibility, as we know. And it is the point of tension in families, these devices. And so I want to ask you, Jonathan, in the anxious generation, you examine how smartphones and social media are impacting kids. Can you share, though, a little bit more about your why and what led you to focus on this critical issue?
Sure. Well, first, let me just say it's a real pleasure and honor to be here in a state that has been a leader. California is the first state to pass an age-appropriate design code, really leading on phone-free schools in the state and in Los Angeles, and talking with a first partner who herself has been so active. Because this isn't just about phones. This is about restoring childhood. And so many of your initiatives have been about that larger picture, which we'll come back to. What I'd like to do to sort of give everyone an overview, even if you read the book, this will be in a sort of a different way. I teach at New York University, and we all noticed around 2015 the kids coming in were just different. They were much more anxious, much more afraid to take risks. And I've been studying that for a long time. I wrote a book called The Coddling the American Mind, which is about the overprotection. And at the time, 2017, we didn't have the evidence that social media was a cause. We just knew it was correlated, but we didn't have good evidence. Well, now we do. So as the evidence began to mount, I realized I have to put aside everything else I'm working on. I was working on a book on democracy. I said, no, once I saw the graphs from all over the world, I said, this is the biggest issue we could possibly face. And so I want to just walk you through, give you an intuitive sense of what has been lost. So suppose that you are a girl born in 1995. That means you're the last of the millennials. And that means that you were 15. I'm sorry, you were 15 in 2010, which is the year Instagram comes out. So you made it through puberty with no Instagram, no smartphone, no flip phone during puberty, no high-speed internet, and your mental health is probably fine. But if you were born just 5 years later, suppose you're a girl born in the year 2000, the 2012 is the year that year Facebook buys Instagram, so that's when all the girls rush onto it. Now everyone has high-speed data, free texting. So you're going through puberty on your phone. Compare what happens. Compare what a child's life is like when you go through your childhood and your puberty on a phone. So if you just humor it, there's a long answer, but I think this is worth doing, a way to really get people to feel what has been lost. I'd like everyone in this room, first of all, is anyone here born 1996 or later? Raise your hand. Do we have any Gen Z? Okay, we have a couple. So you guys keep me honest. Please, at the end, when we open it up for questions, please chime in whether you think that this is right or wrong. But what I want you to imagine, so everyone, think back to your childhood. Think of the most fun times in your childhood. Think of exciting days in your childhood. Just take 5 seconds, just think back. Get some images from your childhood. Okay? Now, remember what your childhood was like, and I want you to start subtracting things. Did you ever share a laugh with a friend? Millions of times, I assume, right? Okay, cut that by 70%, because it's mostly you're liking their post, but you're not laughing with them. Did you ever see sunshine when you were a child? Cut that by 50%. Did you sleep? Probably you did. Cut that by 10% or something like that. We don't know exactly. Did you have any hobbies? Cut that by 90%. Did you read any books when you were a kid? Cut that by 90%. Take almost everything out of childhood that was good, healthful, enjoyable. Take almost all of it out and stuff everything else full of entertainment. We've sucked out all the fun and replaced it with cheap, mindless, harmful 15-second videos and other such things. This, I believe, is the reason why we have these hockey stick-shaped mental health graphs that just are happening around the world. Mental health levels of depression, anxiety, self-harm were stable from the 1990s all the way through 2010, even 2011. No sign of change. And then all of a sudden, around 2013, it goes up, 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 especially for girls. Now, we'll come back to the boys, I hope, because it's a little different story. The boys are doing very badly. But the boys, it's not depression caused by social media. It's a bunch of other factors. Anyway, that's the overview. And so as I've gotten more and more into it, I feel more like a guy who's discovering this pandemic that's hitting all our kids, and no one's doing anything about it. So that's why I've been sort of on such a mission.
Thank goodness you've been on this mission, because we needed you. Really, you've helped us just flip this. I can't tell you how many times I've been sort of crying into, a bag, saying this is not normal. And let's go deeper into what you describe and write about so powerfully, which is the need for embodied childhoods, and it's what we were just touching on. Lives grounded in physical experience, in play, in real-world feedback and connection, social connection. That deeply resonates with the work that we're doing at the governor's level through California's Move Your Body, Calm Your Mind campaign and our Governor's Advisory Council on Physical Fitness and Mental Wellbeing that I chair. It's also part of our campaign that we're soft launching called California Love, California Strong, about self-care, social connection, and service. So we know that physical and mental well-being are deeply linked, and yet devices too often pull kids away from our bodies and at what our bodies truly need: movement, mindfulness, and again, real-world connection. So from your research in neuroscience and developmental psychology, why does embodiment matter so much for kids' resilience and kids' ability to thrive?
Oh, that is a very nicely formed question, because what the tech leaders want you to believe is that you can do all these things online, and it's more efficient, it's more intense, you can play video games online, that's play. But let's go back to first principles here. So first, everyone in this room is a mammal, right? Is anyone not a mammal? Okay, that means that we evolved to have this really close relationship with our mothers biologically. I mean, it's an incredible miracle of evolution that somehow some humans developed the ability to make food out of their skin. Like, this is the big mammal trick, which means we have this long childhood with huge investment. We have large brains, especially the social mammals. So how does a large brain get wired up? the genes don't wire up your brain. There are only 20,000 genes. They don't contain that much information. All the genes do is they get the brain growth started. They sort of specify certain things that you get a human brain, not a chimpanzee brain. But the brain is part of the body, and the brain wires up. The neurons are going very, very fast in early childhood, and they're wiring up based entirely on feedback with the world. And that's why you'll see, your infants first, they're just putting things in the mouth because that's the way they're just getting feedback from sort of like the systems are coming online, and gradually the hands are coming online, and then the feet, the legs, and they can walk and they can run, and they want to do things over and over and over again because that is the feedback loop between the brain orders something, the child does it, it doesn't quite work, the child tries it again, and over 10 or 20 or 1,000 repetitions, they get it. So the brain cannot be wired up without a lot of motion and interaction with the world. Now, as they get older, the interaction isn't as physical. Now it's social. They have to flirt, joke, have eye contact. You become aware of just how much we communicate, with our head, head motions and hand motions. All of that is taken away when they're growing up texting. All that's gone. So the basic drivers of brain development are the physical interaction with the world. And after 2010 or 2015, kids are getting a lot less of that. And so this has pervasive developmental delays. It's not just mental health.
Can you, we were talking earlier about AI and this whole Facebook scenario and what it's enabling. Can you connect the dots for us here with how that's even going to worsen?
Yeah. So one thing that we've been doing, I'm running a movement at anxiousgeneration.com, and that's Alexa Arnold is actually running the movement, and we've been chronicling what these companies know they're doing, and we have a series of posts from TikTok and Snapchat where all we do is quote them, the things they said, like on Snapchat when they saw what Streaks did. Quote, "Wow, we should make more addicting features like this." There's so many quotes like that. So these social media companies are already, they are harming kids and they know it. So it feels like we're already facing kind of a monster. Now, social media is driven by sort of the first wave of AI, or one of the early waves of AI, just about algorithms. And now we are at the spot where this gigantic wave is just beginning to crest, just beginning to come up to us of AI. ChatGPT came out 2.5 years ago, and already the growth is. And so what I was telling Jennifer before when we were in the speaker ready room was that the last week is one of the most disturbing weeks I've seen in all the years I've been doing this. Here's what happened. A week ago, many of you saw the Wall Street Journal had an article on how Meta is introducing these new AI companions on all its products, and all you have to do to get them to talk dirty to you is, there's an easy trick to get them. You just say, pretend we're in a novel or something like that. But Zuckerberg specifically pushed to weaken the safety regulations so that it's very easy to get these things talked. Now, this is disgusting for two reasons. One is that any man in the world who wants to engage in a fantasy about raping a schoolgirl can do so. It will do it. It will take whatever, it'll do whatever you want. So sick people all around the world now can use this to practice their fetishes. And children can use it. A 7-year-old might end up talking accidentally or on purpose, asking about sex and having a sex conversation. So this is just completely bonkers that this happened and that there's not a gigantic uproar and the government isn't acting to stop them. But that's just the first. Okay, so then somebody find a recent interview of Zuckerberg where he's saying to the interviewer, well, I read this statistic somewhere that people have only on average 3 friends, but there's a demand for more. So there's a supply-demand problem here. And the demand, something like 15, I think I read. And so we think that our products will supply that. And so it's like, some of you know there's an old Yiddish joke. You know what the definition of chutzpah is? It's a boy who kills his parents and then asks for clemency from the judge because he's an orphan. And when Mark Zuckerberg says, well, we have this new product that will alleviate the loneliness epidemic, which we caused. So it's just such a, and then to, and here I've been acting on the assumption that Meta and Snap and TikTok, those are the three big companies that own our children's childhood, and we know that they are hurting kids, and they know it. I've been pretty soft on Google and Apple because they have better corporate cultures. They're not as unethical. But Google just, there was an article in the Times today. Google is rolling out its AI chatbots for your kids. If your kids have a Gmail account, they're going to have chatbots to talk with. Oh, but don't worry. Somebody just emailed me this morning. Google gives you this helpful advice. Remind your children that these are not real human beings. Our filters try to remove unpleasant material, but your child may be exposed to some of that. All right, good luck, go on. What the hell?
Yeah.
So we've got to establish the principle this year. Children are not adults. And so far, we've said to the tech companies, do whatever the hell you want to our kids. And we've said legally, as long as they're old enough to say they're 13, you can do whatever the hell you want to them. That has to stop. And thank God Australia has raised the age to 16 and is going to make the companies enforce it. And many states are interested in doing the same. A few states have tried. It's being held up. Many other countries will follow. So we've got to act on this.
Yeah. We signed the age-appropriate design code into law and made the age 18, and it's being held up in the courts, right? It's just... it's hard not to get emotional about this, right? Because we're experiencing it with our children, with our grandchildren. We're experiencing it with colleagues at work, this attention issue. We're experiencing it ourselves with the addiction and the attention issues. But can we just pivot to our boys? Because I think it's important to talk about that right now. I've made documentaries on our girls' misrepresentation and our boys, the mask you live in, and I'm finishing up, and you're still on my list to interview for Misrepresentation 2.0, which looks at tech-facilitated gender-based violence as the new backlash against women's mental health agency and political efficacy. And I share that because what we're seeing our young boys exposed to in American culture vis-a-vis sports culture online and YouTube, and just those 15-second little, drawing them into Andrew Tate, normalizing Andrew Tate, Charlie Kirk. Is that his name? I don't even know who he is. My husband does. But Chris, whatever, those people. So just, I'd love you to kind of introduce us, Jordan Peterson, Brogan. Can you introduce us a little bit more to what now tech is how it's luring our young boys in?
Yeah, sure. So I tend not to focus on content. Content is important, and all the things you said are important. But one of the lessons that we learned from the great 20th century media theorists like Marshall McLuhan and Neil Postman is the medium is the message. The medium changes us in ways vastly beyond the things that we're specifically seeing do. So yes, those matter. We need content moderation. But then there's all kinds of challenges with First Amendment issues, so it's very hard to do good content moderation. This is in part why I have really focused on design and on just the change in life. And here's how to understand the boys' story. When I started working on the book about 3 years ago, I started because I thought I can now prove that social media, especially Instagram, is harming girls' mental health, especially depression, anxiety. So that's very clear. But I didn't know what the boys' story was. The boys, they were going up too, not quite as much as the girls, but they are going up. And I didn't really know what was causing it. And I thought, well, maybe it's video games. And it turns out it's not exactly video games. Video games have, it's not clear that video games is not making boys depressed and anxious. It's causing about 10% to get addicted, to have behavioral dependency, to have a problematic internet gaming disorder. So 10% of boys is a huge number. So right there, that is a very serious thing. But the story is much bigger for boys. And what I've come to see is that the story for boys is that it is open season for companies on boys' dopamine systems. What I mean by that is, we've all seen, have you seen anyone with children here? Have you seen where your kid's on a device and then you take it away and they freak out and they melt down and they're all, so that means that the dopamine neurons have adapted. And now when you take it away, they're in a low dopamine state. It's very unpleasant. Now, if they're heavy gamers, if they're doing it every day, it'll take a week or two for them to come back. They will come back. This is not permanent damage. But if they're on that, if they're getting that all through their childhood, all through their adolescence, it could be, we don't know, it could be permanent changes. And it's not just the video games. It's then they get a little older, then it's the porn. It's all the different nicotine products. I can't believe that we've allowed nicotine to become a normal part of their lives. Vaping, marijuana. The drugs that our boys are now, girls too, but more so boys, I believe. And then sports betting, which, the more you play, the more you will lose, which means that since sports betting is now normal, we're going to have a wave of bankrupt young men. We already do. And so we're ruining our boys' brains, their ability to focus, their ability to enjoy anything that's not on a screen because things have to be super stimulating. We're damaging their social skills. It's going to be very hard for them to flirt or form a relationship, maintain a relationship. We're bankrupting them. We're preventing them from learning life skills. And then we're surprised when I think 20% of 30-year-olds are living at home with their parents, far higher than the percentage of girls. So I used to think, so here's the way to, so if you check in on at age 14, it sure looks like the girls are doing worse. And you'll see, because the boys are having fun. They enjoy the video games, they enjoy the porn. But the girls look miserable. But then the girls actually go to college, and they finish high school, they go to college, they get jobs, they move out, whereas the boys are much less likely to do that. And so when we look at them in their mid-20s, late 20s, we're losing our boys in vast numbers.
Okay, let's bring some hope in. We gotta have hope, because I know you're an optimist like I am, and otherwise we wouldn't be here. So your book ends with a call for a new kind of social movement, one led by parents, educators, and communities to support kids' well-being. It's a vision that I deeply align with. In California, as I mentioned, our California for All Kids campaign has been focused on moving kids, teaching them mindfulness, daily life habits that they can carry throughout their lives. We're focused on nutrition through California's Farm to School initiative and universal meals. So they're getting fresh, delicious. A third of California public school kids are getting fresh, delicious, nutritious meals daily. We're focused on state parks, and we've provided library passes, adventure passes, so that kids and families can benefit from their state parks. So there's a lot that we're doing, best practices and daily movement at schools, et cetera. And we have, I just have to plug this, our Tech Life Balance series, which would complement a book like this, which basically helps, here I should share it, but this is just a guide to strengthen communications and connection at home and to make movement and play easy and accessible and enable us to utilize tech for good, because there is some great tech, right? Tech, All Trails app, for example, or there are different apps that really help families get out and play and be in nature. So I want to know from you, what makes you optimistic that this kind of movement can truly take root, especially at a time when trust in institutions is so low? And also, you bring up in your book the collective action problem. And I think I want you to talk a little bit about that too, if you don't mind, because I think thank you for thinking through this for us. But so many people make the excuse or don't have hope because they don't see changes around them. And so maybe you can kind of guide us and give us a little hope.
Sure. So I've been involved in a number of social change or social impact campaigns. In college, I ran the Connecticut Committee for Handgun Control, which was a completely hopeless endeavor. And I've been working on democracy reform in a lot of ways. Raise your hand if you've been involved in any sort of social change, social impact movement. Raise your hand. Okay. It's hard going, right? I mean, it takes years and years and years. You need a lot of money. You need lots of volunteers. You need to persuade people. It's hard. This is not like that. What happened is the book came out in March of last year, and almost immediately, legislators, governors started acting. People around the world started rising up, changing laws. What we're really seeing, I believe, is a mother's rebellion, because the mothers felt this even more than the fathers. Our kids have been sort of pulled away into where I use the metaphor. It's as though tech companies took our kids and raised them on Mars, and they're coming out deformed. And mothers, for a variety of reasons, I think, felt that that pulling away more deeply than fathers did. And in any case, they were ready to go, and they just needed sort of a shared understanding of what was happening, and then a path. And so what I did in the book, I came to this I'm a social psychologist, which means that I was, I think, unusually tuned in to the way that everybody's influencing everybody. And the kids have to have a phone because everyone else does. And we have to give our kid our phone because she says, I'm the only one, I'm being excluded. And this is the classic definition of a social, a prisoner's dilemma or a commons dilemma, or more broadly, a collective action problem. If we act as individuals, it's hard. I've said no. I did a good job keeping my kids off social media. My daughter is 15. She tells me she's the only one in her whole school who doesn't have Snapchat. I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but that's the way she feels. So I'm imposing a cost on my daughter. I know that in the long run, it's the right thing for her, but I'm imposing a cost on her. But what if 20% of the families at the school did it? Then it wouldn't be very hard at all, especially if we made an effort to get those kids together and play. Then they would have fun childhoods. They'd be the cool kids, and the losers are the ones who are just scrolling their whole day away. So what I realized is, even though there's like 50 suggestions in the book, there's 4 big ones that are collective action solutions. They're very simple. Here they are. No smartphone until high school. We got to clear all this stuff out of middle school, especially in elementary. You can give basic phones earlier. We can talk about that. But no smartphone until high school, or age 14. No social media until 16. Really, it should be 18. This should be not appropriate for minors. But my goal was not what's the best age. My goal is, where could we actually get a norm? And if we go for 16, we can get it. So 16 should be the age of internet adulthood, not 13. The third is phone-free schools. All of us in here remember, what it was like to be in school. If they said you can bring your television in, you can bring your walkie-talkies, your guitar, bring everything in and do it. Can you imagine being a teacher or a student in that? So it's insane that we ever let this happen. And this is happening at lightning speed around the world. 7 states have already, just since the book came out, 7 states have now enacted phone-free schools, and the other 43 are in process. Doesn't mean it'll pass, but there are bills moving through, and a bunch of them, it's clear they are going to become law. So this is lightning speed. About 10 or 15 countries have done this around the world. And then the 4th norm is the hardest. And actually, this will get back to, I think, your interest very closely. The 4th norm is far more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. Because once again, this isn't just, the technology is bad, take the technology away. This is, what have we done to childhood? Give childhood back. And this is the hard one, because this is the one that asks us to overcome our fears as parents. Has anyone here seen the Chick-fil-A mom, the video of the Chick-fil-A, the mother who lets her son go into Chick-fil-A? Raise your hand. Oh, it's been all over Instagram, which has its uses for us adults. Adults can use it. But the idea is, I co-founded an organization called Let Grow. If you go to letgrow.org, with Lenore Skenazy, who wrote the book Free Range Kids. And we developed this program called the Let Grow Experience. It's very simple. And please, if anybody, raise your hand if you're involved in schools in any way, schools or education. Okay, everybody, please, I hope you will go to letgrow.org and download the toolkit for the Let Grow Experience. It's so simple and so brilliant. We didn't invent it. It was a teacher at my kid's school, actually. And all it is this. The school assigns, let's say you do all the 3rd graders, around 8 years old. You just give them a piece of paper, instructions, you go home. Mom, Dad, here's the instructions. I have to pick something that I think I can do by myself, with your permission, but without you. And especially when it's like, do something outside, like walk the dog, walk to the corner store, walk 2 blocks to a neighbor's house and pick up a cup of sugar, which you don't actually need, but you told the neighbor that this is going to, whatever. Just get the kid out. And then something amazing happens, which is the kid is nervous. They do it, and then they come back, and they are exultant. I mean, they're like taller. It's really beautiful what happens. And that's the way that you overcome anxiety, is by exposure. And if they do that 3 times, they're now much more confident. But here's the other super powerful thing about it, is that the parents are nervous. The first time that my kids walked to school,
It's beautiful. No, I'm there with you. I'm totally.
But the point is that that we're nervous too. Now, were our parents nervous when we went out to play? No, because it was the norm. But we're asking parents to do now is something which is not normal, which is let your 8, 9, or 10-year-old kid have a life. Don't lock them up. And the first time you let them out, it's nerve-wracking. But then they come home, they're happy, they can do it. And then by the third time, you're not nervous anymore. So do the Let Grow experience. And the other thing is, imagine if in a town you had hundreds of 8-year-olds doing errands. Nobody has seen an 8-year-old unaccompanied since 1992. And suddenly you see all these 8-year-olds on bicycles. Like, it becomes normal again. So that's how we fix this.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to open it up to questions. Just super quick, could you what is your recommendation for when there are phones and kids are come over to the house? Like you said, you're encouraging play or overnights or what have you. Do you have phones go in the basket, and does every family member know when they come to your house? Or every family member, but also friends and neighbors?
Those would be very good policies. I'll tell you what I did and what I wish I had done. I focused on social media because when I started this project, I thought that was the problem. So I didn't do a good job keeping the kids off computers and other things. And of course, in COVID, there was no choice. So I didn't do a good job with that. Here's the policy I wish I had, and I'm going to recommend it to everybody listening. If you have younger kids, I wish to God I'd had the policy: no screens of any kind in the bedroom ever. That's the policy in our house. We have a computer. We have a computer in the living room or the kitchen. We have a TV. There are times, stories are good. You can watch movies. So they'll have devices. They'll have media. They'll have stories. They'll have access to you and a computer. But we don't do that in this family. No devices in the bedroom ever. Now, at some point, maybe in middle school, you'll have to relent and you can bring your laptop in for 2 hours. But start with that policy, and then it's easy to loosen up a little bit later. I wish I had done that. And then if you have a policy like that, then it's also more sensible that when the friends come over, you say all the phones go in the basket. And amazing things happen. When all the kids have phones, they're just sitting there on their phones next to each other.
So
Whereas when you take the phones, like the girls, they literally start singing together.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And are we going to lose the younger generations? Have they lost the ability to read long-form books?
This is
how do we fix that too?
No, that's right. This is actually what's really freaking me out now.
Yeah.
Is that when I wrote the book, I was focused on mental illness, and that is gigantic, and that's where the data is clearest. But since the book came out, I have a section in there on attention fragmentation. I have like a couple pages on it. I'm now realizing this is actually much bigger. This is much bigger. And I'm realizing it because you've seen some of the studies. Just in the last year, a lot of college students, professors are talking about how our students have trouble reading books. As one of my students put it, I teach a flourishing class at NYU, and as the student put it, I take out a book, I read a sentence, I get bored, I go to TikTok. TikTok is always there. Some of my students are on it 4 or 5 hours a day. And so I do believe that TikTok, while Instagram has a special power to make girls feel bad about themselves, TikTok has special powers to make people literally stupid, like meaning you lose the ability to read, to pay attention, to read books. And Snapchat has the magical power of introducing kids to strangers who want to either sell them drugs or have sex with them through the quick ad feature and other things that they have that they won't get rid of. So the platforms are very different. But what I'm coming to see is that it's the attention fragmentation which is really the bigger global threat. Because as our machines are getting smarter and smarter, and there is some concern that they are going to become some kind of vague sentience or some, there are various dystopian scenarios that the experts think are possibly plausible. As they're getting smarter, we're getting stupider? No. Let's turn this around.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Who has questions? We can also end on a high note and turn back to something that people are optimistic about. You could ask. Anybody have any thoughts or questions or gratitude? Can we have? Yes, thank you.
My whole neighborhood read your book, and most of us have elementary, some middle schoolers, but we all agreed on some of the tenets that you were talking about, like waiting for a certain age to get cell phones. So that has helped a lot. I have a 5th grade daughter, and just last week she asked for a phone for the first time, which I think she knew the answer was coming. Like, no, it's not even. It's like a non-starter right now. But what messaging have you seen effective in communicating this to kids? Like, I thought
Yeah. Well, first, it's really helpful if you do it in a group. So it's great to hear that your whole neighborhood read the book and is doing the four norms. If you can especially collude or collaborate with the parents of your kids' best friends, so that you all have a common policy, then it's much easier to go down because they're terrified of being the only one. I'm not saying you shouldn't give your kid any phone before 14. Just never give a smartphone as the first phone. So there are some stripped down phones. They can have it, especially if you're giving them independent. Are you sending them out in the neighborhood? Are the kids playing? Great. Okay, so then there are reasons why you might want them to be able to communicate or text you or things like that. So you guys can work that out. I don't know exactly what, it depends on your neighborhood. So I can't give you advice on exactly what age to give what kind of phone. But that's great that you're waiting, and you just started. I think you're going to see that the results compound, especially if you've got a whole neighborhood. That is such a beautiful thing to hear.
Yes.
Just a question. What is your thought about computer use? So our schools give our children computers from a pretty young age
Yeah.
to do homework, but I find that they're often on video games. They found a way to bypass blocked sites.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for asking that question. This is so important. I should have mentioned it before, but I'm so glad you asked about educational technology. So we were all techno-optimists in the 1990s and in the early 2000s, and we thought, look, smartphones, there's amazing things. You can call a car, you can bring down a dictator. Like, this is amazing. And so we're all optimistic about it. And so when the tech companies, and especially Google and Apple, come in and say, oh, here, take these and this, a lot of people are like, yes, we're modern. We 100% of our kids have computers on their desks. Okay, what happens after that? So this is 2012 to 2015. The kids get computers on their desks. What happens? Test scores immediately go down. And for who? The bottom half of the students. Test scores for the top half of the top 10% are not really down since 2012, but the bottom half are way down. So whatever we're doing, it's really hurting the kids. How is it hurting them? As you said, it's distraction. UNESCO has a couple of major reports on this. The distraction effects of a computer on a child's desk vastly outweigh any possible benefit that an ed tech company could tell you that its private study said maybe is possibly beneficial. Don't believe them. I'm not saying there's no role. I think Khan Academy is great. But we have to start from the assumption, so far the track record is that ed tech is distracting our students so much it is harming their education, it is separating them from each other. So I think we need to rip it all out of elementary school, just rip it all out. Yeah. Go back to pen and pencil, pen and paper. That's what Sweden has done. They were the first to ed tech eyes, and they're the first to de-ed tech. We need to just get it all out of elementary school, probably even higher. I teach undergrads at NYU, and I teach MBA students. And I discovered, after years of allowing them to use their laptops, because they're mature, and I use a laptop to take notes, the TA would tell me half the class is online shopping, checking their stock portfolios. These are MBA students, and so if 28-year-olds, and if we can't focus. And this is why Conrad asked you to put your phones on, because many of you we all would have been checking something during this talk. So if 28-year-olds can't learn well when there's a computer on the desk, how do we expect 8-year-olds to learn?
That's right. Yeah, we're looking into it in California. It is a big issue, and it's an even bigger issue for special learners. Yes.
What role do we adults have with our own behavior? So recently it's becoming clearer that we're being harmed by this too. When I wrote the book, I was sort of assuming we're distracted, but we're not being brain damaged. And that's probably still true. But it's now clear that we adults are having trouble reading books, learning things. There's just too much stuff coming in. We can't focus. So it is affecting all of us. But in terms of our role as parents, I just want to point out that, of course, our kids say to us, but you're on your phone all the time. Okay, now, of course, kids learn to be lawyers arguing their case. If you adopt a habit of, eating spinach milkshakes or reading The Economist, is your 13-year-old going to copy you? Hell no. So I don't think our kids are copying us just because we do it. Now, for little kids, it's really important. For toddlers, they need the sort of the serve and volley, the perfect timing of your reactions. So when you have little kids or infants, it's very important to not be on your phone, to interact with them completely. But for teenagers, they're focused on their external world. So our job as parents and adults is to set the boundaries, the parameters, enforce the rules within which they can have fun and develop. Of course, we should work on our own habits, but I don't think that's the key thing for the kids.
I just think we need more community. I think we need to do whatever we can to break bread together and to be in community. I think the tech has isolated us even further, and we're closer to people that we socialize with online than we are with people in our neighborhood or school or church or what have you. I just think it's one of the things we're trying to do in California is revitalize. I mean, a lot of counties do it well. They'll have like Friday night parks or Sunday streets. When my husband was mayor of San Francisco, he'd open up the streets. We need to do more of that and bringing people together outside of competitive environments, because I think we've also, separate issue, but many of you who have kids in sports might know what I'm talking about. We've created a culture where families are like sprinting across the state or to other states for their kids' sports competitions on weekends, which is completely harming our own mental well-being. So I think like the pendulum swung too far over here, and you've given us so many tools and just best practices to bring back to this sort of embodied childhood where we can play and actually be human and whole again. And that's really exciting. I think we also need to spend more time in libraries. There's something about the library and books and the quiet and the slowness. Like I do a lot with, California has an incredible library system, and I'm really excited for a lot of our partnerships there between libraries, state parks, and our schools. So look forward to that.
Could we ask the Gen Z people whether they have any comments?
Yes, please.
Okay, so raise your hand again if you're born in 1996 or later. Raise your hand high. Okay, so there's 3 or 4 of you over there. So I'd welcome your comments. Do you think I got anything wrong here? Is there anything I've misunderstood? No? Oh, wow. Thank you. And the other 2 of you? Same story? No, thank you. So for those watching online, she talked about what's happening to the social skills and the boys and flirting and dating now that everything's on the apps. Courtship is a major evolutionary fact about mammals, and humans have all kinds of built-in stuff about courtship, and it's all embodied. And it's about that first touch of a hand or something like that. I mean, it's hard, and you have to learn it. And the apps block all that, and the video games blocked it long before. So and then all the online stuff that Jennifer was talking about, the content fed to boys about what girls are like. So there are enormous obstacles here to romance and marriage and family formation, and that is a catastrophe for society if we don't turn that around. And I just want to also pick up on what two of you said, the regret. Older members of Gen Z have such regret about what happened to them. And this should be a signal, not just to Gen Alpha, the kids who are under 15 now, not just to them, that the ones ahead of them really regret what happened to them. Kids, don't do this yourselves. So that's one thing that you can say to in the neighborhood. But the other is that should be a real signal to parents in here. We're doing a collaboration with the Harris poll, and we find that out of 1,200 parents surveyed, 20 or 30% felt they gave this technology too early. Not a single person thought they gave it too late. Right. So there's enormous regret among parents and among Gen Z.
Yeah. I was going to share sort of a personal story about courtship. If we can, I think for those of us that have young girls and young boys, this young man brought flowers to our house to ask my daughter out, and then took her out, opened doors, paid. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen, ever. She's 15. And I said to her, you remember this, whatever happens, right? Whatever happens, like, this is the standard that I need you to expect. When a guy texts you to ask you out, that's not asking you out. Like, the fact that he was so forthright and communicated with her, and so just such a gentleman, I just want to uplift that. So if you have sons like that, celebrate them and cherish them, even if the girls don't want to go out with them. Just be like, you're a rock star. No, seriously, I think we need to do that, because they feel so, it's so easy to feel ashamed, and like you've been rejected. So I really want to applaud that. And that young man, I'm going to write him a letter. Because we need more of that. We need more of that. There's just the gentleness and the kindness and the respect. And our girls need to know that that should be the bar, and not to like accept anything less.
Agreed.
And on that note, one last question.
John, I saw you speak at Newport Beach last year, and along these lines, you gave an example of when you were younger and how you tried to ask a girl out a few times. Mm-hmm. And eventually you got better at it, mm-hmm. and you shared with how kids do that today, and they might not be as skilled, and what the girls say about them if they're not good at it. Thought it was really compelling if you could share that. Do you remember what you said?
Wait, I don't. Tell me what tell me what I said to this girl.
I have 3 boys. It
Okay.
broke my heart that you were explaining that when you wanted to ask a girl out, you kind of worked up the courage and you didn't do really good the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you got it.
Yeah, it's just awkward. Yeah.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
because kids don't have the social skills, when they
Yeah.
approach a girl, they often do it poorly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the girls go to their moms and tell them, and their moms say, oh, he's creepy.
mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, no, that's right. No, boys have a lot more to contend with, and if they come on too strong, they could be accused of something terrible. So boys are in a bad state too. I think. Let's see. Yeah, I did have a comment about that. Oh yes, one of the worst. So technology always makes things easier. Technology takes the hard things in our lives and it makes them easier. You want a fire in your fireplace? Touch a button, gas flame. You don't need to learn how to make a fire. And what you learn, and so that's great for adults, but our kids need to learn to do hard things. And if there's always an easy way out, they'll take the easy way out, especially if they're anxious. So it would take, your heart would be, I probably something like how my heart would pound. Like I would feel my heart pounding, and then of course you're nervous, so then you speak disfluently. So why do that when you can just text? Then you're not anxious, it's easy. So the technology blocks our kids from doing hard things, and the result is by the time they arrive in college, they find it very difficult to do hard things, like read a book or ask a girl out. So we've got to, again, establish the principle. Children are not adults. Our children are not the testing playground for the tech industry. We've got to protect our kids from this stuff until it's proven safe, and so far, very little of it has been proven safe for kids.
And how many kids have had to be, who of means, have been shuffled off to centers in Utah because of their tech addiction or their mental health as a result of tech addiction and what they've been exposed to. So, yeah, stakes are high. Thank you for caring so much. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, we're over. Sorry. I think you get to sign some books. Is that right?
Yep. I'm happy to sign books. And also, I urge everybody, please go to anxiousgeneration.com. We have all kinds of resources for parents, legislators, teachers. We're running a movement. If you have allied interests, if this is of interest to you, please, actually, Alexa in particular is really running the movement. But Jennifer, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And just let's keep this going. Let's keep this going. Don't be shy or quiet about it. And obviously, if you have ideas for California, you know, we love to pilot things and we're into systems change. So don't be afraid to reach out. So much gratitude. You're just wonderful. I'm so happy we finally got to connect. Thanks, everyone.